Hello and welcome to the first in the Effective Writing Center's series of workshops. I'm Dan Gallagher, Director of the Effective Writing Center. Tonight's workshop is titled Breakthrough Writer's Block with these powerful proven tips and is being presented by David Taylor and Michelle Bowman.
Hello.
David Taylor is a senior advisor at the EWC and also teaches in the university's professional writing program. Michelle Bowman is our Writing Fellows Coordinator and has been with the EWC for 10 years. She has a BS in psychology and is working on her master's in distance education. The Q&A app has been added to this Hangout, so please feel free to type in your questions during the workshop, and we'll respond to them after the initial presentation. This workshop will be archived for viewing in the Effective Writing Center's Google Plus community. And now, without any further ado, to begin tonight's workshop, I will turn it over to David Taylor.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Dan. And hello, everyone. It's great to be with you tonight. In our inaugural EWC Effective Writing Center's Google Hangout workshops, as you can see, my volume was on and it's not supposed to be on. So just a second, let me turn the volume off. Okay. So again, let me welcome you to this Google Hangout workshop. First thing is you're going to be happy to know that there's no such thing as a writer's block. It's just one of those wastebasket terms we use to avoid talking about things we don't really understand. But what we do understand are writer's techniques, some that help and some that don't. And another problem is that this whole idea of a writer's block conjures up a real obstacle that must be overcome with great strength and a great struggle in order to win a victory over an outside force. But nothing could be further from the truth, and here's why. Writing and talking flow from the same inborn ability, human language. If you can speak fluently, you can write fluently. Any neurologist with his or her CAT scan will tell you it's a piece of cake. Born within all of us is the same innate capacity to do both with equal ease, if we have the right training. Now, our moms did a great job with the talking part. Unfortunately, the schools have let us down.
David,
so yes.
Pardon me for a moment.
Yes,
it looks like you're not sharing your screen yet.
I've been doing all that talking without sharing my screen.
True.
No.
Am I sharing my screen now?
Yes.
You are.
Okay.
Perfect.
Shall we go back? Is everybody seeing that?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go again. Again, we're talking tonight about writer's block. I was just making the quick point that there's really no such thing as writer's block. It's a wastebasket term. Ignore it. There's really no such thing. There is only writer's technique. Some of them are helpful, some of them are not helpful. And tonight we're going to focus on the one that is helpful. But the first thing we're going to talk about is the psychology of a writer's block. Just the idea of that term itself conjures up this great struggle of breaking through to a victory over some imagined obstacle. In reality, we are all born with the same innate human language ability. In other words, if you can speak fluently, you can also write fluently because they're the two sides of the same coin. And any neurologist worth his or her CAT scan will tell you doing both is a piece of cake if you have the right training and if you have enough practice. And I think this is where we left off. Our moms did a great job with speaking, but unfortunately the schools have let us down. So now we ask the question, what corrupts our natural ability and makes words hide out from us, that makes our stomachs curl, our handshakes, our anxiety spiking off the scale? where doing anything but writing sounds nice. And there's one thing that causes it, and it's bad habits. Now, these bad habits can take two forms, technical and psychological. And first, we're going to talk about this one on a psychological basis. We're going to address it with a proven strategy, and I hope at the end you'll agree that you can do both with equal ease. The only difference is what body part you use, your finger or your mouth. Okay, so let's begin. The most common mistake when trying to get started on a first draft, beyond a doubt, is a thing called head writing. Head writing is, and you know it, as soon as I say it, you'll recognize it, is the attempt to compose and polish a sentence in your head before you write it down. In other words, you try to get it right. And that's a contradiction. It's a contradiction because it requires simultaneous performance of two what are mutually exclusive acts, trying to do both of those things. So where does this bad habit come from? Why do we have it? Well, the first place it comes from is the once and done habit of school writing. You know what I'm talking about. You've gone through decades of school waiting till the night before or 2 days before. You write a draft, read it over, hand it in, hope for the best. Sometimes that works out, sometimes it don't, especially as the writing task grows in complexity. And the other thing is this myth of the perfect draft. This idea that a professional writer can produce a perfect draft on the first take, and that's just not the case. Even the greatest writer in the English language, William Shakespeare, did draft after draft after draft, getting feedback from actors and producers and other writers until the thing was finally done, performed, or in the case of sonnets, published. So ask yourself, why wasn't Shakespeare a head writer if this is such a perverse proverbial thing? That's because he knew that there's a time for composing. That's when you use language to explore and discover your thought and feeling. You make creative use of language. Then there's a time for judging. That's when you edit. That's when you correct. That's when you polish. That's when you've done something to something that has already been written. Notice that has already been written, the past tense. How can you polish something that hasn't been written yet? And that quandary is what makes these people, head writers, so frustrated and anxious. So what are we going to do about it? We're going to look at the science of writer's block. You know that our brains are divided into two hemispheres. You may not know that they perform very different functions. The right hemisphere has to do with creativity, intuition, holistic thought, insight. The left hemisphere is just the opposite. That's the seat of logic, where it breaks holes into parts for analysis. It relies on rules and set patterns. And even science, brain science, even in the 1990s, decades ago, knew that if you overstimulate the left hemisphere, it can actually block communication from the right hemisphere. That is a mental condition called cross-hemispheric brain interference. Fancy way of saying writer's block, I think. So that's the science behind what you're going through. Now, the cure for writer's block is very simple. It's a thing called block writing, and the similarity between terms there is something that is intended, because what you want to do is force yourself to separate the act of composing from the act of editing. How do you do that? Step one, you go ahead and you make an outline. If you're not doing planning for the things you write, it's time to start doing that. After you've done that, you choose a section to write. It doesn't have to be the intro. You can start anywhere. Then you choose a time frame. 5 minutes, 3 minutes is great. Set a timer for that amount. Then, boom, you start that timer and you begin writing that section as fast as you can, and you don't stop until that 3 or 5 minutes is up or you finish the section. Some other rules to keep in mind during this block writing. You definitely never want to stop. Once you start those fingers moving, you must keep on moving them. Don't cheat. Don't stop. Keep it moving. Even if you have to write nonsense, keep your fingers moving. Type in X's for quotes or facts that you know you want to put in there, but you can't remember. Second rule is the same as the first. Never stop. Now, this is going to feel like jumping off a cliff to you. It's going to feel like, because of your old habit, I can't do it, I can't do it. All I'm saying is choose something that doesn't count and give yourself a chance to do it. Give yourself a chance for that voice in your head to be heard. You know, there was a guy named William Faulkner who won the Nobel Prize in 1949, and he used to teach at the University of Virginia in between riding horses and hunting foxes. He was once asked, how do you write? And he said, I follow my characters around and write down every damn thing they say. And what I'm saying to you is to separate composing, learn to listen to that voice inside your head and let it speak its piece before you try to edit it. Separate those two things. Maybe you won't win any Nobel Prizes, but I bet you'll be less frustrated, and I bet you what you have to say will be more close to what you actually want to say. Okay, so that's my little spiel on writer's block. I will stop sharing my screen, and I will turn it over to Michelle Bowman, who's going to give you some really specific techniques, strategies to use. Michelle?
Thank you, David. Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet, Michelle.
Okay.
There it is.
Excellent. Okay, so sometimes the fear of writing, the anxiety generated by the very thought of it, and the determination to avoid it can paralyze healthy progress towards writing. So let's talk about a few ways to aid in the recovery of such distress. You know, this is a feeling we have all had at one time or another. The first tip is to dive into your topic. Many of you might know that a large portion of anxiety and fear comes from the unknown. The best way to calm your fears is to immerse yourself in your topic at hand. For example, if you're assigned to write about global warming, yet you don't know a thing about it, take some time to informally investigate the topic on your own before you officially begin searching more seriously. Do a Google search on the topic. Watch a documentary on Netflix. Ask others what they think about global warming. Get a conversation going. The idea is to dive into your topic casually at first to gain interest and a stance on the topic. Remember that the informal research is not a substitute for the in-depth research you will do, but it helps prepare you. Fueling up on the necessary knowledge in the beginning will take away a significant amount of initial fear to begin writing. So my second piece of advice is to start skimming. We've all been here before. You begin formally searching for support for your essay and suddenly feel paralyzed by the sheer amount of pages included in one scholarly article. Sifting through dozens of 20-page articles, you become completely overwhelmed. Reading articles word for word can be daunting and exhausting. If you don't approach the reading with the right mindset, you can stir up tendencies to procrastinate the entire project. The best approach is to start out reading only the introduction and conclusion of an article. Since you've already taken a stance on your topic, you'll know what to look for in the article. Pay close attention to the headings and last paragraphs of each. Look for important quotes or points you might want to use in your essay, and jot down the author's name, publication date, and page number, of course. Remember, skimming is not a substitute for the in-depth research you will do, but it is merely a technique that is worth trying when searching for specific information to support your stance. Eliminating unnecessary lengthy prep work will make it much easier to jump in and get started on your writing. My next tip is something we hear a lot about, and that is managing our time. We all wonder how we will fit in everything into each day. The dishes are piled in the sink, the dog is begging for a walk, your teenager is asking help with exponents, the neighbor is ringing the doorbell. Sound familiar to anyone? Finding enough time to sit down and concentrate as a working adult can be tough, but the key is to focus and manage your time wisely. If you really think about it, what are you accomplishing if you aren't dedicating your full attention to any given task? The best way to fully give writing the attention it deserves is to carve out some time each day to progress in small steps. Choose a time when distractions are minimal and you're relaxed enough to really focus on the present moment. Turn off the internet to avoid social networking. That's a big one. Turn off your phone. Don't think about anything else but your writing. Writing a couple of paragraphs a day is much better than panicking the night before your assignment is due. When you get into a good groove with your schedule and you focus, the anxiety lifts. This next one will bring you such a relaxed state of mind, and that is to just surrender. Surrender to the process. A big obstacle we all have to overcome is the fear of failure and of judgment. Looking at the big picture can help keep things in perspective. Ask yourself what goals you are working toward. Try to embrace constructive criticisms as a way to progress in your writing. You know, accept the good, accept the bad, and celebrate the good. Collect writing successes and refer back to them for inspiration. Nobody writes perfectly all the time. That is okay. Overcoming fear of judgment and surrendering to the experience will allow you the freedom to express your thoughts and step into a position of authority in your writing. Lastly, and this is such a big one, remember you are never alone. Colleagues, classmates, novelists, bloggers, advisors, and even professors all struggle at one time or another to get those words down on paper. Nobody is immune to the realms of occasional writer's anxiety. Take advantage of the support around you and let someone else read what you've written so far. Another pair of eyes can really be a great way to examine what you've accomplished so far and give you the confidence you need to keep progressing. Visit the Effective Writing Center and you will forever be a fan of the 24/7 support offered.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I'm looking over at the Q&A and I do not see any questions at the moment. If anyone has questions about this workshop, feel free to type them in now. We'll give it a few minutes. If you are watching the recording of this workshop, please feel free to drop a question right below it, either on the YouTube page or in the Google Plus community, and someone from the EWC will get back to you with a response. So if you do have a question, you should see on the right-hand side of your screen a means by which you can ask that. Just go ahead and type it in, and we'll stick around for another couple minutes and see what kinds of questions might arise. Okay, if we don't have any questions for David or Michelle, then we will go ahead and wrap up this workshop. If you attended, thank you very much for your time. I hope you found something useful in these tips, these proven tips and tricks. And if you, again, are watching this later, then please feel free to add a comment or a question, and someone in the EWC will respond to you promptly. And if that is all, then I will again thank you for attending. Thank you to Michelle and David for putting on a great presentation. And I hope you have a great night. And don't forget that the Effective Writing Center is available 24/7 to help you become the writer you want to be. Thanks.
Thank you. See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.